What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Game Week 28 deadline stream. How are you guys doing? How has your week been? Are you ready for the double, or in fact, first the blank in Game Week 28? Are you ready for this week? I think it's going to be a very interesting, a very important one. There's so much that's going to happen in terms of the blanks. Of course, it's a blank game week, so it feels like it's a smaller or a shorter game week. But I think there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to do, considering that we have a double just after this blank, after the blank in game week 28. So I think it's going to be a very interesting week. Let me know if you guys are selling Haaland. I mean, oh my god, the number of questions, the number of people that have asked me this question in terms of what to do with Haaland, because I mean everybody's shitting their pants. Let's be very honest. I don't think so. There will be anybody, including me. And if you can see my team, I also have let go of Haaland. I don't think so. People are comfortable selling Haaland because they are worried about that Liverpool game. The last time around, it was a bit easier. I can't say easier, but of course, Haaland I think didn't haul in that particular fixture. Now, this is a chance that Haaland can actually do well this time around because I think there's some recency bias here as well because of the fact that he's very recently scored 5 goals in the Champions League. So I think a lot of people are scared. There's a lot to discuss in terms of captaincy. There's no favorite captaincy option. I'll be upfront about it, and I don't think so. There's a particular favorite captaincy option this week. I think you have to fancy your gut and what you are feeling or how you are reading the game. I mean, I'll try to build narratives for all different options in terms of which one you can go for. But yeah, I mean, this a lot to unpack. Of course, we are also trying to build and make our teams towards the game week 29 double as well. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you can or as you want to sort out your 29 team as well. I think it'll be easier for you to plan your 28 moves when you also know what you're doing in 29 at least, because of the fact that I mean, whether let's say if you're using a chip that might be codependent. Let's say if you're possibly making a particular move, you have two free transfers, for example, so you can plan your team accordingly. But yeah, welcome again to all of you to the deadline stream. Hello Divargya, hello, welcome to the stream. Whom to captain? Madison, Saka, Watkins, Tony. So I think we'll dive directly into the captaincy question first. In terms of captaincy, I think, and you've not mentioned Kane, so I'm probably not going to talk about Kane. In terms of these options, I think I'll probably rule out Madison here. I understand that Madison has been one of the better options from the Leicester team, but on a whole, I don't think so. Leicester, I mean, it's very difficult to read Leicester at the moment because you have the likes of Iheanacho, who's a great option. I mean, he does really well whenever Leicester, needs him. But then Brendan Rodgers subs him off when he's losing or when the team is losing to Chelsea, and I didn't understand that what was happening. Now that's not the first time that's happened. I think that there is something that Rodgers has against Iheanacho, and because of that fact, because of the inconsistency that Leicester shows, their numbers are okay. The underlying stats are fine. They are, I mean, they're not that great in terms of goal scoring as well. They're probably about mid-table, but Madison in particular is a good option. So if you are feeling that Leicester's probably going to do well, I think Madison will be heavily involved. Now I don't consider Brentford's defense to be that bad. I mean, there are worse defenses in the Premier League, so I think the potential or the ceiling for Madison is not very high. Plus, there's always a chance of an early sub. Again, I don't know how Leicester's probably going to perform. I'm not very confident, is what I mean to say here. Then we talk about Saka and the other Arsenal options basically. Now, the issue with Saka or the other Arsenal options is that they've very recently played midweek. They played 120 minutes. Of course, not every. I think nobody apart from Martinelli played 120 minutes. Now, that means that they probably would be a little fresher or be a little fresher. But the thing is that they have recently been knocked out of Europa. There are potential murmurs and rumors about injuries to Trossard, to Saliba as well. Then there possibly could be a knock to Zinchenko as well, which I think just came out of nowhere. And because of that fact, I'm not very confident about Arsenal's potential. The biggest advantage here, or maybe that's a disadvantage again, depends on how you read the game, is what do you read from Patrick Vieira getting fired from Palace and then Arsenal facing sorry Palace in this particular game, right? So there's a high chance that they might be very clueless in terms of what they have to do against the Arsenal team. Arsenal are a great attack, so I think if you're not going Kane, probably the safest option would be to go for Saka. But in terms of his potential as well, I'm again not 100% sure. And I have my doubts when I talk about the Arsenal attack. I know it's a bit odd because Arsenal is the best attack in the Premier League. but just because of game state, just because of that extra, emotional tiredness that a lot of people, a lot of players might face, they may be fatigue kicking in as well, and we may be seeing some substitutions, some early subs, maybe a odd benching, a surprise benching here and there. I think all of that could absolutely happen. So now coming to Watkins, Tony, I think both are great options. Tony is again the slightly more popular option. Leicester's really bad. I think they're the worst in terms of expected goals conceded since the World Cup finished, and basically since game week 17. So I think if you go by stats, Tony is a great option. I don't think so. The yellow card really affects captaincy because even if he gets a yellow, he still plays this week. So I think captaincy is fine. Watkins is a very interesting one. Bournemouth have improved recently, but it's a home game. Bournemouth are still conceding chances. They're still conceding shots. And I mean, their defensive numbers aren't really great. So I think for me, if all of these options kind of exist, I think my choice would be between Watkins and Tony. And depending on how safe or how risky you want to play, you can go for either of them. I think that's absolutely fine. I won't look at Iheanacho, Trippier, Share as captain. I think Share is definitely out, so he's not going to play. Uh, and I won't look at Iheanacho or Trippier for captaincy. I mean, I understand the appeal of getting them as a on a free transfer as a regular player, but I think captaincy. I mean, don't you think that captaincy is a bit too much in terms of pushing it a little bit more? So I think, yeah, I mean, just because of the fact that I said right, I'm not very confident about Leicester's attack and what are they going to do, whether Iheanacho even gets 60, beyond 60 minutes, etc. So I think, yeah, I possibly won't look at those options. Hey Nigel, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. So your team is Kepa, Trippier, Gabriel, Chilwell, Burn. Among your mids, you have Son, Odegaard, Martinelli, Havertz, Kane, Watkins. As your subs, you have Foster, Madison, Mings, Almiron on a free hit. Interesting. So you've gone for a free hit. I think Son is a great option on a free hit. Havertz is a great option on a free hit. Odegaard, Martinelli, I'm not too sure. Maybe Saka, Martinelli. I mean, actually, to be very honest, you can go for either of the combinations. Absolutely fine. Maybe you can even triple up. I mean, that's also a potential strategy where you can triple up, but then you'll have to let go of one of the defenders. Maybe you'll have to let go of a Burn, for example, and then you go triple Arsenal attack. I mean, that's also a possible strategy in case if you want to attack. But yeah, if you want to spread the risk a little bit, I think it's absolutely fine to not go for the Arsenal triple, which is basically their attack. And yeah, I think the rest of the team looks pretty fine. Maybe instead of Burn, if you want to go a little bit punty, I think you can go for somebody like a Poro, for example. I think Emerson Royal is probably not going to be fit, and Poro could be an option. So I think that would be my only change. Other than that, I think I mean on a free hit, I don't think so. Tony actually makes a lot of sense. So you've done the right thing there. Havertz, Kane, Watkins is I think is a very strong combination. Botman or Burn, not really too much to differentiate between the two. They're very similar in terms of their bonus points, the potential from bonus points. They don't really have much attacking threat. Burn definitely plays in a much more attacking role, but Newcastle's attacks are generally from Trippier's side, and that is why he gets so much bonus points. And his XG and XG numbers are much higher than other defenders from the Newcastle team. Plus, he's also on free kicks and corners, so I think that's a huge advantage uh, when we talk about Trippier. So I think between the two, I mean, just take your pick, whichever you feel, or maybe if you have a feeling that this player is probably going to score an odd goal this week, just absolutely go for it. But I think other than that, it's fine. Zinchenko, Gabriel, right now, considering the fact that we've been hearing some rumors about Zinchenko maybe having a knock. Again, it's not confirmed because there was nothing in the Arteta press conference. But yeah, I mean, the safer option would be Gabriel because I think he's absolutely safe. There's nothing that's happened to him because Saliba also got injured, and I think Gabriel should be better. I mean, he has decent goal threat as well. So if you look at the overall picture, Zinchenko is a good long-term pick because he will be consistently giving you a good baseline in terms of attacking output. There will be bonus points with him as well. Gabriel is an option who may not do anything for 5 or 6 matches, maybe 10 matches, but then he'll have a goal or he score a goal from a free kick or a corner or a set piece, basically, right? And that is where you kind of take advantage, and that is what happened last week as well. So I think Gabriel is absolutely fine. I can also captain Chilwell. I wanted to captain Chilwell. I'm just not having the heart to captain Chilwell. If you see my team, my vice captaincy is on Chilwell. That kind of shows that I am thinking about Chilwell captaincy, but I'm a little bit scared in terms of going all the way. I can still do it. I still don't think so. It's probably gonna happen. Let's see. It's still about an hour 45 to go, and we'll see what we do with with the Chilwell captaincy. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a differential, if you're trying to gain rank, if you're trying to catch up with your mini league rivals, because I don't think so many people will be, captaining a Chilwell, for example. I think it's possibly going to be spread between a Kane, Tony, Saka, Watkins, or maybe an Arsenal mid. I mean, I don't think so. People are going to go beyond this particular scope in terms of captaincy. So I think if you're chasing and if you're trying to go a bit aggressive, I think Chilwell is a great option. Havertz or Felix, sorry. I think in terms of the recent numbers, Havertz looks slightly better. This conversation would have been very different if Felix, sorry, he wouldn't have had those shots which he took, and they hit the bar. If they would have gone in, maybe a couple also would have gone in. I think this was a very different conversation. But because of the fact that both are, I have a feeling, or I at least feel that they're both average finishers. Yes, they will be involved. They will have a lot of good goal involvement. They can provide assists. They can score goals as well. But they're not clinical finishers by any means, right? So I think I'll still take my chances with the Havertz. Havertz himself is a differential, so you don't really have to go for ultra differential. I think Havertz is pretty much nailed as well. He's slightly changed in terms of his position, and if you see the last 2 or 3 games, his numbers are slightly improved as well. So with this change in position, I think there could be a possibility that maybe he starts getting more attacking returns. I mean, of course, there's a lot of ifs and maybes right now, but I think Chelsea have definitely changed the structure. They've definitely changed their shape as well, and now they're playing a wing back system, and that is why there's this whole fuss and you know uh, there's this whole debate about whether Chilwell is actually good or not, and all that stuff. So I think if I have to choose one, I'll probably go Havertz. Hey Soumya, hello to you. Your team is Kepa, Trippier, Gabriel, Chilwell, Botman. Among your mids, you have Rashford, Saka, Martinelli. Forwards are Tony, Kane, Watkins, Henry to Chilwell, Haaland to Watkins. I think these are standard moves. To be very honest, I think most of the managers who probably went on a 26 or a 27 wildcard, I think this is probably their team, and I think these are standard moves. They're good moves as well. It's just not that everybody's doing it, so I think you should also do it. I mean, there of course should be some sound logic and reasoning behind why we are going for these picks. But I think with Henry, you are letting go of one fixture this week. But I think in the longer run, especially, and even in the shorter run, right? I mean, when we talk about Game Week 29, Brentford have a tricky double. I understand that Chelsea's double is also not that great. But when we talk about Chilwell and his attacking output, I mean, I don't think so. There's this. It's a fair comparison comparing Chilwell and somebody like Henry, for example, when we talk about attacking returns. So I think, especially the fact, or because of the fact that Chelsea is now playing in a wing back system, I think Chilwell's gonna get forward a lot. There's a high chance that he gets goals, he gets you assists, and if Chelsea can keep up their clean sheets or start keeping clean sheets, I think there is a good chance of good bonus points as well. So I think Chilwell is a very good option. Watkins as well. I think to be very honest, Watkins' numbers have been really good since the time that Ings has left Aston Villa. It feels, or I mean, when you see their games, you get that feeling that he is now their main talisman. He's on penalties. There's a high chance that whatever Aston Villa is doing, I think Watkins will be involved. His numbers are really great. I mean, he's probably in the best form of his life right now, and I think, as I've mentioned earlier as well, I think it's important to jump on these hauls, get on these runs, and try to take advantage of whatever you can, or in whichever way you can. So I think Watkins is also a great pick. Shar News, as far as I have read, I don't think so. He's fit, and I think it's probably time where you look for a replacement. You can go for Botman if you have some money. I think Chilwell is a really good swap this week. Why are you not considering Saka? We are sacked. Palace can see the move. I mean, they do, but I just have a feeling, and your reasoning is absolutely fine, which I've also mentioned the early part of the stream where I was talking about Saka captaincy. I think the fact that Arsenal did play 120 minutes, and it's not that, of course, Saka didn't play 120 minutes. I think he played about 50 or 50, I think 55 or 60, something around that. So it's not that he will be very tired, or, it's just that there'll be a lot of emotional drainage, especially with the fact that it went on to 120 minutes. I'm also concerned about Martinelli because Martinelli played 120 minutes and he missed that penalty as well. I know Saka scored, but I just feel there will be some tiredness in players, and I think some sort of level of fatigue will kick in. Now, I might be totally wrong. That's my reason. Of course, you might disagree or you might believe that nothing of that sort is going to happen. And I think Saka is a great option. I don't think so. He's a bad option, but I just feel that there are better options. And I think when we talk about Kane and the matchup of Southampton versus Kane, I think he's probably a better option if I'm looking between a Saka or a Kane, for example. But yeah, that's just my thinking. That's just how I'm reading the game. But yeah, if you feel that he's a great option, he's a great pick, absolutely go for it. I mean, again, as I've mentioned earlier, and I think a lot of people have also said this before, there's no one way of playing FPL, so it's absolutely fine. Having said that, I'm also captaining Kane. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's fine if all of us are doing the same thing. But for the sake of actually understanding why the hell are we doing that, I think it's important to see both sides of the coin, be the devil's advocate. Some point, at some times, and try to understand the reasoning in terms of why let's say why you are going for Kane and why not Saka, right? So I think it's important to see both sides and then probably make a decision, unless you're just blatantly copying what others are doing and trying to go the popular way in terms of your transfers, moves, and your overall team. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Bring Chilwell in for me or Pinnock. I think I mean, if you have both, I'll try to get rid of both. I know you can't do that with one Chilwell. You'll probably need another player. But I think if I'm taking out one, I'll take out me. I don't think so. I mean, it's not that he's worth the. Yes, he's gotten more points. He has more goal threat, but we've not really seen that over the past few weeks. And I think it's fine. I mean, we anyways would be planning to offload our Brentford options this week, next week, or even the week beyond. So I think it's fine. When you can let go of me, you can, by letting go of me, you'll also have some additional money, maybe point 0.4, point 0.5, maybe slightly higher, maybe point 0.6, something around that. And then that money might come in handy next week when you are plotting your different moves. Maybe you're planning to go towards a Madison. I don't know your team, but maybe you plan to go towards a Fernandez. Maybe you're planning to change somebody in your strikers, for example. And I think that additional money might be helpful, because to be very honest, it's not really that that additional money is really helping you on the pitch in your 11 at the moment. So I think it's fine. You can absolutely go with that. I was looking for devils. I mean, yeah, that's what, right? I mean, it's important to understand both sides of the coin and then probably take an informed decision. That's about it. I've been getting captains wrong lately. I mean, luckily, luckily, unluckily, I don't know. But I mean, let's not jinx it. But I think, yeah, my captaincy has been, or those choices, I think, has been decent. Last week it was Haaland. The week before that, sorry, it was Haaland. Then Salah was a very good captaincy decision in 25. I mean, yeah, of course, you always have a tendency to go wrong. Maybe with a Haaland pick, for example, I think a lot of people did captain Haaland in Game Week 24 and he blanked. So that was also a blank for me. But yeah, I mean, it also depends on what kind of an FPL player you are, right? Whether you're risk averse, whether you like taking risk, or whether you just want to play it a little bit safer. Be very patient. It's very difficult to be very patient in FPL, to be very honest. If you ask me, you'll always get that itch. You'll always get that feeling that this player's done, and there's always a lot of recency bias. So let's say if somebody scored a goal in the last couple of games, or maybe has done really well, you would want to get onto that particular player because maybe he's on a run, maybe the fixtures are really good, maybe the underlying stats also are good. All of those things combined, I think we try to make our decision, and of course it goes right or wrong sometimes, which is a part of how FPL is played. So that's fine. What's the Almiron news? I think he's okay. So it's being reported that he has picked up an injury and will be out for 3 weeks. Yes, that's what's the latest news is. It's being reported that Miguel Almiron has picked up an injury in training and he's said to be out for 2 weeks. It's kind of confirmed as well. So yeah, if you have him in your team, maybe take him out. If you don't have him in your team, or if you are in a free hit, for example, I don't think so. A lot of people who are planning their regular transfers or using their free transfers, they are kind of taking in Almiron. But in case if you did already, then try to see if you have somebody on the bench. Maybe you have to take a hit for him. You can absolutely do that. And I think it's better to take a hit right now and then prepare your team for 29 as well. In case if you already have him, if he's there in your team on a free hit, just take him out for a different option. Why captain Kane over Saka? Kane has a better matchup, to be honest. He has a much better record as compared to Saka versus Crystal Palace. When we talk about matchups, Kane against Southampton is really good. I mean, he's got about, I think, 15 or 16 attacking returns in the last 14 games. So I think it's. I mean, he's been decent, to be very honest. Tottenham haven't looked that great always, but I think Kane is somebody who has been very consistent. Now I've got burnt by Kane by not having Kane for majority of the time. Luckily, I had him last week where he hauled. Anyways, I don't think so. A lot of people were anyways planning to captain him last week, but I think Kane, to be honest, is a decent option to go for. Southampton have the worst home record in the Premier League, and I think even I know it's an away fixture for Kane. I know it could be a bit tricky. There is a slight improvement in Southampton, especially when you talk about their recent performances. But I think this is a game where Kane can easily score a brace, maybe a hat trick as well. I understand that Saka will probably get an additional point for a clean sheet, and that may also help him in bonus. But I think, yeah, I have my doubts on Saka and Arsenal, to be very honest. I don't think so. They're gonna get beaten badly or anything like that. But I just feel it's probably gonna be a little bit closer. Also, the fact that Tottenham is a team who heavily relies and depends on Kane, whereas you have the Arsenal team, and in the Arsenal team there are multiple outlets to goals, assists. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that there are multiple outlets to FPL points. So let's say if you have Arsenal, you have Saka, for example. I mean, there have been multiple times where we've had Saka and somebody maybe had Odegaard or maybe had Trossard, for example, and they absolutely smashed it, whereas Saka blanked, right? And that's what's happening with the Arsenal team because of the fact that there is Martinelli, there is Saka, there's Trossard, I think, who's picked up a knock now. But then there's Odegaard as well. Now, Gabriel Jesus is also back. There was a time where Nketiah was also, he didn't do that well, but he was still in the mix in terms of getting those calls, etc. So there are a lot of options in terms of the Arsenal attack, where the returns can go. And I think that's another reason that I'm slightly more comfortable captaining Kane this week as compared to a Saka. Almiron's injured. Yes, that's what we read. It's confirmed, so I think you should definitely take him out if you have him. Definitely want Bruno or Salah for 29. I mean, that's a good transition in terms of a double because both teams have a decent double. I mean, Liverpool has a tricky double, but I think Salah in specific could do well, especially if you're chasing. I think, I mean, Salah at least deserves a conversation. I'm not sure whether he's probably the most popular pick next week, considering that United assets might do better, etc. But I think, yeah, if you're chasing, if you're doing things differently, I think Salah could be a very decent differential. I mean, can't believe that we're talking about Salah as a differential pick, but yeah, that's where we are. But yeah, I think outlets to a Bruno, to a Madison, maybe to a Barnes, for example. Let's say if you want to double up on Madison and Barnes, that is also a potential option. If you want to go towards a Fernandes, my only worry with Bruno Fernandes is the fact that Casemiro is not going to be there, and there's a high chance that Bruno plays in a slightly deeper role. Now we'll see what happens this week in the Premier League, and if that kind of is happening, I'm not very sure about Bruno Fernandes's potential. He will still be involved. He'll still make the occasional runs, but I'm not feeling Fernandes in that sort of a space. If that happens, I think he's a no go for me. I'll possibly try to go towards a Madison. I think for my team, it'll be a decision between a Madison or a Fernandes, and I think right now it's pretty much equal. But if I see Fernandes playing in a slightly deeper role, I think it's probably going to be Madison. But yeah, both options aren't really wrong, so it's fine. Please don't spam the chat. I'll have to block you otherwise. Rashford to Son, I'll answer your question first so that you don't spam the chat. Rashford to Son for a -4. I won't do it. The reason being he's a good option this week. Otherwise, on a long-term basis, even in 29, I don't think so he's the right pick to go for. I won't do it for a hit. If this was a free hit team, maybe the answer was different, but I think Rashford to Son for a -4, I won't do it. For some reason, I feel Palace would be a tough. I mean, it could be, right? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. Sacking Vieira was the right call. That's number one. Secondly, I still feel he's done okay with that team, considering the quality of players, considering the transfer budget that they had. I don't think so. He's done a bad job. I mean, they still might not get relegated. I'm not sure now, but I didn't understand the sacking at this point of time. But yeah, Palace generally could be a tricky game. It's a home game, so you will expect Arsenal to come all guns blazing, and I think they would definitely want that because now the only thing that's left for them is the Premier League, and they would want to consolidate their position in the Premier League. So I might be totally wrong in my assessment that Arsenal's probably gonna be a little bit lackluster. They might just come off the blocks and might score 3 or 4 goals as well. I think that's also a possibility. So yeah, let's see. Best defender to buy this week and next. 5.5 is your budget. I think so. If you're looking at a double game week option for next week as well, I mean Chilwell is expensive, so you won't be able to afford Chilwell. Let's see how much is James. I'm not sure. I think James also has to be more than 5.5 for sure. I mean, the Arsenal options, they do have a fixture this week and next week, but it's not a double. So you're not getting 3 fixtures, but 2 fixtures. But yeah, I mean, Gabriel is still in the conversation. There's Newcastle defenders as well. I mean, you can go for Botman, who has a fixture this week, has a decent double in 29. I mean, you can go there. When we talk about, Brighton options, there is Estupinian. A lot of people, I don't think so anyone's buying Estupinian at the moment, considering that he's blanking this week. But I mean, he has actually a good double. In fact, Leicester is also a team that could do well in 28 and 29, but it's very difficult to trust their defense because, I mean, they really are bad defensively. It's just they've probably been a bit lucky in terms of not conceding as much as they should have, and that's where I am. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved to go for somebody like a Poro, especially for 2 weeks, but then I think he doesn't have a double next week as well. So I think it's a bit tricky. Shaw could be an option. How much is Shaw? I'm not sure. Shaw is 5.2. So I think, yes, he's not giving you a fixture. I mean, similar to Estupinian, right? He's not giving you a fixture in this week, but then he has a double and a decent double in 29. But in case if you want a particular player, I think Newcastle options are good. If you're okay with not having the additional fixture, I think Arsenal options are also okay. I don't think so. They're the worst of the lot. Let me just quickly check how much is James. 5.8, and he's. I mean, yeah. Anyways, he's not an option because he's 5.8. Won't look at any other Chelsea options in terms of defense. Isak over Tony. In case if you're trying to go differential, if you want to take a bit of a risk, why not? I mean, Tony has that opportunity to get us that 10th yellow card and not have a fixture in game week 29 and not feature in game week 29 at all. I mean, that could also be a possibility. I think a lot of people who've sold Haaland, they're kind of hoping that happens because then the decision to go from Tony to Haaland is absolutely fine. They can easily do it, and that I think that pain of not owning Haaland in 29, that will go. So I think, I mean, if I'm actually looking at a wildcard team right now, or if I'm making one particular move, if I already had Tony, it's a different thing. But if I'm looking at one option, I think Isak could be a very decent option. I mean, he definitely makes the Newcastle attack a lot better. And I think with him, players like Almiron, etc. could also start hauling. So I think he's still kind of getting into full fitness because he's recently returned. And I think it's going to get better for Newcastle. So I think he could be a decent pick. Mans could hit a barn door if he tried to forget him. I mean, yeah. I have 9 players for this game week. Thinking of Henry, Estupinian, and Haaland to Watkins, Havertz, and Chilwell. I think they're sort of common transfer combinations. All of them are absolutely fine. I personally don't. I'm not very fixated by the idea that I need to have 11 players, and I think that's where the thinking kind of came in because I was initially planning to take out Estupinian, and then I was trying to get him back in 29. Because I had one additional free transfer, so I wanted to hold Haaland. That was also part of one of my moves, but I think that kind of made my decision very very obvious in terms of thinking to attack a little bit and trying to play the fixtures. And I think Watkins is where I kind of landed. I think Havertz is also a decent option. Watkins is better in terms of whatever he's done. I mean, he's a little bit more proven in terms of whatever he's been doing, and he's been getting us goals. Havertz always looks like a player that you would want to target, but he doesn't. I'm actually a little bit concerned about his finishing as well. I mean, he's not a clinical finisher. He's not a natural finisher, and even if Chelsea score, there's a high chance that he may not get involved. So I think because of that fact and because of how Watkins or how important he has been to Aston Villa's overall attacking outplay, I think yeah, Watkins is fine. Isak over Tony differential, as I said, good option. We'll have 10 playing 10. I mean, that's fine. As I said, you don't have to have 11 playing options. I think even 10 is fine. The average is probably going to be somewhere between 10 to 11 this week when you average out the entire FPL manager community. But I think it should be okay. It's not that I mean, Brentford could still keep a clean sheet, but I think Leicester's attack is pretty good. I think they will score in this game. Besides Madison, who's the best midfielder for 28, with two double game weeks in 29. I think Almiron would have been my option, but now that he's injured, of course, he's not in the picture. I would have loved to go for an Aston Villa option as well with a fixture this week and then a double next week, but I don't think so. That's also going to happen. I mean, Chelsea could be an option. Chelsea has Everton this week. I know a lot of people were trying to go towards a Sterling, but I don't think so. He's fit for this week, so he's definitely not going to play. If you have the heart to, take a bit of a risk, I think Mudrik could be a decent option. He's only 6.5, so his price is not that high. He did really well in the last game. He also got an assist. Now I know if you don't trust him and if you feel that he's probably not a good option right now, I totally get that argument, and I think it's a big risk. So the numbers aren't really there to suggest that he could absolutely smash it or explode in the FPL space. But I think if you are okay taking a bit of a risk, I think he could be a decent option. Other than that, somebody who has a double and a fixture this week as well. I mean, Spurs again don't have a double. Chelsea I've already mentioned. Arsenal could be again a team who are okay. I mean, who might even outscore a lot of double game week players because they're facing Leeds next week, and I think that could be a good fixture. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of options there to be very honest. I mean, I won't look at Brentford. I won't look at other teams as well. So yeah, I think Madison would be the pick. Otherwise, I'll try to get in, the likes of Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka, at least some sort of a combination. If only if Brighton had a game this week, I think their options probably are the most standout picks. I mean, they are really high value. They are doing really well as well. But yeah, I think maybe look at a Bournemouth option. I mean, but yeah, Bournemouth doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence. Right? They're not really outright FPL picks. So I think it's a tough call because there aren't really a lot of options. I feel Vieira underperformed, not a horrible job. I mean, they did overrate. I can't say that they overrated him, to be honest. I don't agree respectfully. But I think, yeah, I mean, if you feel that he underperformed, that's again, that's how you are seeing the game. I still feel with whatever he had with Palace, I think he did okay. Yes, he's been on a run where he's not won a game this year, which is a bit surprising. And they can very easily spiral back. I mean, that's what happens in the Premier League. You start losing games, you lose confidence. Players, strikers are not scoring goals, defenders are not keeping clean sheets, the goalkeepers are making mistakes, and the whole confidence, goes for a rut. So I think from that angle, I understand the sacking, I understand the decision, but I still feel they should have, waited till the end and then made the call. Can't decide where to start Kepa or Raya. I think Kepa definitely has the better fixture. Everton aren't really a side who score a lot of goals. Their attacking stats are also not that great. On the other hand, Leicester are, I mean, they're still better, I think, than Everton in attack. And even if Raya doesn't keep a clean sheet, there can be a decent number of save points. But I think overall potential, if you ask me, I think Kepa is the better keeper this week. Martinelli or Chilwell or Watkins captain. I think all are differential options. All are decent picks. I don't think so. There's anything wrong in going for anybody. I think Martinelli is probably the most riskiest of them all because he did play 120 minutes. He did miss that penalty as well. Now there is a chance that he may get rested, but it's not that Arsenal really have a lot of options, especially if Trossard is injured and Nketiah is not fit. And I mean, they are forced to play Gabriel Jesus. I don't see a lot of options, of benching Martinelli. So I think he should start. But yeah, in case if you're really chasing and if you're okay with a bit of a risk, I think Chilwell is a great option. I mean, as you can see, I have my vice captaincy on Chilwell, and I think he could be a decent option. So, excuse me. Yeah, all good options. Out of all, I think Watkins is the safest. So, in case if you still want to go differential, but you do want to take a lot of risk, I think Watkins is the one to go for. Otherwise, I think I'll definitely try to go towards the Chilwell. I think he looks like a very interesting option this week. Almiron out. Yes, he's injured or supposedly out for 3 weeks. So if you have him in your team, try to take him out. If you have him on a free hit, for example, replace him with a different option. Should I sell Estupinian rather than Henry? And I mean, I understand why the idea to play an additional player. I mean, if you are really short of players, let's say if you, I know that you possibly would have 10 players, but in case if you probably had 6 or 7 players, I think the answer would have been slightly different because I mean, you're still trying to put yourself in a position where you can actually get a clean sheet. But I still feel Brentford are going to concede this week. And again, you have to understand one thing as well. Which player or which defender do you want for gaming 29? Do you want a Henry, for example, who also has a double in 29, or you want Estupinian, who has a decent double in 29, or maybe let's say if you've already decided to maybe make a transfer from Henry to a different option, you can do that as well. I mean, you can maybe go for Estupinian, take out Estupinian this week, go for somebody like a Chilwell, for example. In the next week, you do Henry to Shaw. I mean, that also is fine because Estupinian is blanking this weekend. Then in that case, if you have 2 or 3 Brighton players or 2 Brighton options, maybe you can go for a third Brighton attack as well. I mean, I'm just throwing off ideas, but or maybe you do not need 3 Brighton options for the double in 29. I think it's a good double. It's a decent double, and I think Estupinan can get a good haul. And that's the reason I'm not very convinced about getting him out and then getting him back again, especially for my team. And I made the Haaland move where I already committed to a Haaland transfer. Latest by game week 30 could also happen in game week 29. And if I have other fires to put out, I think then that transfer would lead me to take hits, and I think that's not ideal. So I think you have to decide which player you want for 29, which defender you want for 29, and what is your plan for that particular defender. Are you actually playing that defender in 29, or is that defender just a route to go towards a different option? And I think based on that, you'll be able to make a proper decision. I've already answered this. Martinelli, Chilwell, Watkins. Watkins is the best option to go for. Chilwell, if you are going differential. If you were on a free hit, which 3 midfielders would you play? Interesting. So if I'm on a free hit, I'll definitely play Son because on a free hit, we're trying to gain advantage from the regular crowd who doesn't have the free hit and they can't really go towards the Son, for example. I think the upside is there with Son, the fixtures there with Son. In the last 4 games, his attacking stats have also been okay. I mean, yes, he's not, done things. I mean, he's not smashed it on the FPL space, but I think he's definitely one option that I'll want to have. Uh, so that's one. I think Madison is also a great pick this week. And if I'm looking at a free hit, I think Madison would be my second option. And then third is where I kind of move towards an Arsenal mid. So you can have Odegaard, you can have Saka. I think if you want to go safer, you go Saka. If you want to attack a little bit, you go one of Martinelli or Odegaard. I think right now I would slightly prefer Odegaard considering that he also played lesser minutes. But yeah, I think those are the 3 options that I look at. Of course, Brighton, Man United, Man City, Liverpool. These players do not have a game this week, so I of course we can't go there. And yeah, I think Almiron would have been in the discussion, but now that he's out, I don't think so. He merits any thought at all. And yeah, Chelsea again. I said Mudrik, but I mean he's a wild punt at the end of the day, so I possibly won't go there as well. So yeah, these 3 would be the midfielders when I'm looking at a free hit. Saka and Martinelli or Odegaard or Martinelli depends on whether you want to play a little bit safer or. I mean, it's not a huge difference. I don't think so. Saka and Odegaard would have a huge difference in terms of ownership. So Saka is 42%, Odegaard is 33%. So I think Odegaard is still slightly lesser owned. But yeah, I don't. The only advantage of the Saka is that he's on penalties. So I mean, if you get a penalty, Saka is definitely going to take it. Their numbers aren't really that. I mean, it's very difficult to differentiate based on their underlying stats because you might end up going for one combination and the other combination of the other player scores in that combination. So maybe let's say you have gone for Saka or Martinelli, and then you have Odegaard who scores, and Martinelli of course is a common factor between both combinations. So yeah, I think it's not a huge difference. I think if you're playing very safe and if you want to cover off the Saka threat, because I think there will be a fair few managers who also captain Saka this week. So his effective ownership might be 100%, maybe might be even more than 100%. And I think Odegaard won't have that. So I think if you want to play safer, I think Saka is the play. Keane would have done a better job as Palace manager. Maybe, again, what would have happened if Keane was there? I'm not sure, but yeah, could be possible. Kepa, Chilwell, Trippier, Zinchenko, Botman, Saka, Madison, Odegaard, Watkins, Havertz, and Kane. Decent team, decent squad. Double up with Chelsea, double up with Newcastle, Zinchenko. Zinchenko is maybe a slight worry. Again, if it's a wildcard team, maybe go for Gabriel. If it's a regular team, then just stick with Zinchenko. Saka, Madison, Odegaard. looks like a strong combination. Watkins, Havertz, Kane. I mean, yeah, I like the team. Good team. Tony or Havertz. Tony's safer, but he has that issue with his 10th yellow card. So if he gets another yellow card next week, he will be banned from Game Week 29. So he's not going to feature in Game Week 29. And I think Tony's a safer option. So in case if you are not willing to take a lot of risk, I think Tony is the one to go for. In case if you're okay taking a bit of a risk, bit of a punt, and if you are chasing, let's say if you are chasing in your mini leagues, in case if you are chasing in your, if you're trying to gain rank, maybe your rank is not at all where you expect it to be, and now is a time where you start taking a few risks because this is a week where swings can be massive. I mean, Havertz could return maybe 10, 15 points. And people who went with him, I don't think so. Havertz ownership is still going to be very high as especially as compared to a Tony or even a Watkins, because I think Watkins is also going to be decently high. But yeah, depends on your game state, depends on your team and your rank and what you are trying to do. I think you can make a case for both, but yeah, I mean, if you ask me, I think because I'm an attacking manager and I'll possibly try to go for a Havertz, especially when we are comparing Tony and Havertz. We'll quickly check Twitter in terms of any information that we have. There's still a long time to go. We have about an hour and 15 minutes. So, in case if you have more questions, please feel free to add in terms of captaincy, in terms of transfers, in terms of chips, for example, in case if you have any questions around chips, around your wildcard, around your bench boost, maybe around free hits as well. I think I'll be happy to take those. Thoughts, thoughts on Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Spurs clean sheet. I think Arsenal again depends on how many injuries have they had now in their defense. Let's say if Zinchenko is out, if Tomiyasu is already out, they may even have Saliba out. I think yeah, the clean sheet could be a bit tricky, but I mean you would expect Arsenal to keep a clean. Even Chelsea, I mean Chelsea's at home, and I think it's still going to be a close game, maybe a 1-0 sort of a game. And I think Chelsea can score a goal. Again, Chelsea's not a team that beats other opponents, by 3 or 4 goals, and I don't see that happening at the moment, and I think they can. It might be a tight game, and I think they can also keep a clean sheet. Newcastle is a bit tricky because Nottingham Forest at home. I mean, there's absolutely no way or no chance that Newcastle will have an easy game because Nottingham Forest will absolutely go for it. It's a home game for Forest. The crowd is amazing, and they generally are very attacking at home, so they don't sit back and defend. I think because of that fact, maybe Newcastle is not maybe the least favorite in terms of having a clean sheet. Even Spurs, it's a home game for Southampton, but they traditionally haven't really scored a lot of goals at home. Their record against the Big Six is still not that bad. So again, that's the other side, and the other side of the coin where you make a narrative in terms of yes, Southampton away is probably not a very easy fixture in terms of what people are thinking, and that's also there because one part or one side of data actually suggests that as well. But I think in general, I'm confident about Chelsea. I think that's the only team I'm probably confident about. Maybe Arsenal, I think, because Spurs also have a way to put themselves in trouble most of the times. I think they always find a way where they can, create troubles, create problems for themselves, and then get into the mix of it. So I think also not very confident about a Spurs clean sheet and their defense. Is taking Emerson Royal out for Chilwell a good move? I mean, yeah, I think it's fine. Even if you have 10 players, fine. Royal is injured, possibly out for this week. Doesn't have a double in 29. With Chilwell, you're getting a fixture in 28. You're getting a decent double in 29. You're also getting good attacking threat and maybe a slightly better defense in terms of again clean sheets. May or may not be wrong. Absolutely, I mean, I know a lot of Spurs fans won't agree. A lot of Chelsea fans maybe would agree. But I think, yeah, it's a good move to make. What's a transfer this week? So I've already made 2 free transfers. I had 2 frees first of all, and I had 4.3 million in the bank. So that's a lot of money. Maybe again, I don't think so. It's the record right now, but right now, I have 7.3 million in the bank. I mean, I have never ever in my short career of playing FPL, I don't think so I've seen, my team or any team having that much money. I'm sure a lot of teams would have even more money in the bank this week, especially because a lot of people have taken out Haaland, and they've gone for the likes of Havertz, of Watkins. All of those options are at least about 3.5 to 4 million cheaper than Haaland. So I think a lot of people would have this kind of money in the bank. But yeah, but the moves basically that I've done is that I've taken out Haaland, I have gotten Watkins, and then I have taken out Henry, and I've gotten Chilwell. So these are the two moves that I made. I'm slightly worried about Zinchenko and the fact that he's possibly now carrying a knock. But yeah, I think we'll take it from here. In case if he's out, then I think we'll ship him out for maybe somebody like a Shaw, for example. I think that's a very easy swap next week. But yeah, this is where I am. I had two free transfers, so no hits. Next week, my plan would be to try to get towards a Madison or a Bruno Fernandes. I have money in the bank, lots and lots of it. So I maybe will take out Martinelli or Saka, one of them, and then shift them to a Bruno Fernandes or a Madison. I think that's gonna be one free transfer. This is the best case scenario in case if there are no injuries, no players, because there's no absolutely no sense to have an injured player in your team on a double, possibly the biggest double game week of the season. So even if Zinchenko is out for long or he's injured, I'll probably replace him, take a hit, and I think it's fine. I mean, even a -4, -8 next week should be okay, especially because of the fact that of course we're playing a lot of people are playing the bench boosters, and I think that should be okay. Does Watkins take penalty kicks? Yes, he does. Havertz versus Watkins. I mean, the safer play is Watkins. He is the talisman for the Aston Villa team. Since Ings is gone, most of the attacking play of Aston Villa goes through him. He's on a purple patch, so he's been scoring a lot of goals. He's hardly blanked in the last 10, 12 game weeks, maybe a few times. We've not seen that consistency from Chelsea. We've not seen that consistency from Havertz. His underlying stats are okay, but they generally don't translate into FPL points. I think this is a point this is a point which a lot of FPL managers do not consider. Yes, his underlying stats may be okay. He might be decent, but just because of the fact that he's a very average, maybe even a poor finisher, I don't think so. He has the potential to go absolutely crazy. I mean, now that I've jinxed it, he might, but I think I'm not very confident of Havertz getting a 15 pointer, right? And do let me know if you think that could happen. I personally don't think. Watkins is somebody who has that potential, and I think he can do well. Aston Villa's defense is rubbish. I mean, no offense to any Aston Villa fans, but I think their attack is quite good. So I think Watkins is my pick. Isak or Watkins, I'm surprised to see no one considering Isak, but I'm really considering him as I don't see Watkins better than him. I'm personally, I disagree again. I just feel Villa are a much better attack. Newcastle is a proper team, probably a better overall team, but their defense is a lot better. They don't really, again, Newcastle is also a team that don't score a lot of goals. Isak is coming back into the frame, and I think he's definitely a lot better than a Wilson, for example. But yeah, I still feel Watkins is a better option. Watkins is on penalties, and he's the main man for Villa. So I think I disagree. I think Watkins is the better option here. What's your transfers this week? I've mentioned that. So yeah, but I think it also depends on whether you want to go a little bit safer or whether you want to go a bit more attacking, right? Because in case if you want to attack, in case if you want to go aggressive, I think Havertz is a good option. I don't necessarily believe that he's possibly the highest or the best scoring option this week, but I think yeah, I think he could be okay. Transfers this week are Haaland to Watkins, and then I've done the other move, which is taking out Henry from my team and getting in Chilwell. I had two free transfers, lots of money in the bank. I have more money in the bank, 7.3 right now. Tony Osaka for cap. I think Tony has the better match. I still feel that Tony has the better opposition because Leicester are the worst team in terms of XG conceded since the FPL restart. They do concede a lot of shots, they do concede a lot of chances, and I think Tony, because of the fact that he's on penalties, he's the main man for for Brentford. And Brentford are okay. I mean, they're still mid-table in terms of attack. Again, referring to the numbers after the World Cup and from Game Week 17. So I think Tony is a safer play. I still feel Tony has more potential, and that's why I feel that he's a safer play. Again, a lot of people might think that Saka is probably the better option, but when we talk about Tony and Brentford, it's generally not the case where a lot of other options, a lot of other players from Brentford would be hauling, right? If let's say Brentford score one or two, maybe three goals, I think there's a high chance that Tony gets a goal, maybe he scores from a penalty, maybe gets an assist as well. So, and that also kind of helps him with bonus point potential because when he's creating a lot of chances, when he's at the end of these chances, scoring a goal, scoring a penalty, etc., there's a high chance that he will be on bonus. I mean, generally, whenever Tony scores, he is on 2 or 3 bonus points, and I mean that was a very surprising stat that I saw. The same probably cannot be said for Saka because when we talk about Saka and Arsenal in general, Arsenal has a lot of attackers in place. There is Martinelli, there is the returning Gabriel Jesus. Trossard may not play this week, but then there's Odegaard as well. Arsenal has a tendency to also score from set pieces, so something like a Gabriel can also get a haul, and it's difficult to predict who's actually hauling. Plus the fact that they've recently lost. They had a midweek game first of all. It went on to 120 minutes, then it went on to penalties. They lost that game. They're out of the Europa League. Now, one side is that they will be focusing on the Premier League and they'll be very very focused in terms of where their priorities lie right now. But then the other side is that there might be some fatigue kicking in. There are already some injuries. Their main 11 might not start this week, and especially after a loss, I think playing with that same intensity might be a bit tricky. So again, that's how I am reading the game, and that's where I feel that something like a Tony is a better option. Don't have Kane, of course. I mean, Kane would have been slightly preferable, but yeah, I think out of these two, Tony's, I still feel Tony's number two, and then Saka's number three. Too scared to captain Saka due to Palace. I mean, not sure if that new magic bounce will kick in this soon, but could be wrong as well. But yeah, I think Arsenal could still do okay, but I have my doubts. I still feel that it's going to be a tricky game for them. Wilson is out injured, so Isak will be starting. I mean, yeah, he will be starting every game and he will be on penalties as well. Thank you for pointing that out. Newcastle created a lot of chances. I mean, they do, but they haven't been scoring. That's what I was saying as well. But yeah, let's see. I mean, it could change, but traditionally they are a much better defense as compared to an attack. And even with Isak, I think that may or may not be the case. That may change, but I think yeah, I still want to see a couple of more games from Isak. See him getting back to full fitness. See him playing 90 minutes, and then maybe take a call. But yeah, in case if you feel that he's probably going to do really well, he's a great differential option, of course. And if you feel that maybe Havertz is not good enough, and you don't want to go and get towards that Havertz train, I think it's fine. You instead go for an Isak, and I think it could be okay. Not a lot of people own him, so the gains that you can make out from Isak, I think they could be great. But I still believe from whatever I've seen so far, I think Watkins is still a better option. Everybody captaining Kane. I want to go different, but I just got my rank up. Don't want to. I mean, that's where you decide, right? Whether you want to play safe, whether you want to go risky, whether you want to be patient. But I think this is one week where ranks could really, go up and down. If your captaincy option doesn't score, and if other options score, I think there's a high chance that your rank can tank. Next week, if Haaland scores, and most of us or a lot of us who won't be having Haaland, I think the rank could tank as well. So I think if you are scared of maybe losing out on rank, I think Kane is still going to be one of the most popular options. I think his effective ownership is still going to be around 120, 130, maybe slightly even more. I think he's probably going to be the most popular option. At least on Twitter, it seems that he's the most popular option. He may not be the most popular in general because Twitter is always a bubble, right? It's always a certain number of people, and of course, you see them talking, you see them, creating content, you see that again and again. So you start getting into that bubble where you feel that this is probably the most important or the most popular thing to do this week. That might not be the case, and that I think that was seen by the Game Week 26 wildcard, where it felt like almost everybody on Twitter was wildcarding Game Week 26. But when we actually saw the numbers, it was a very small a very small proportion of overall FPL managers. But yeah, safer As I said earlier, I think it's Kane. I'm reading the Arsenal game as a close 1-0 or a 2-1 as well. Yeah, I also don't think after playing midweek and going till 120 and having that emotional drainage as well. I think yeah, I think I think it's going to be a close one. Now the sacking of Vieira may or may not change, or may or may not create a difference, but might I still feel that it's going to be a close one. Thank you for you. I think I'm looking for a bit of punt really. I mean, yeah. If you are looking for a bit of a punt, I think go for Isak. I think it's fine. I see simple. It's a very simple thing that everybody reads the game differently. It's not that you're wrong and I'm right, or you're right and I'm wrong. It's just different people watching the same game might have different opinions, might have a different point of view, and you just have to respect yours and the other person's point of view. If you have a gut feeling about it, if you feel that you've this is how you are reading the game and you want to do this, because again, even if it's not about reading the game, it's also about how you want to play FPL in general, right? Are you a serious player? Are you just looking to have some fun? Maybe you want to do catch up, maybe you want to attack differentials. It depends on a lot of these factors, and I think basis on this, you take a call on the kind of moves that you make, the kind of transfers that you make. I think that's where you'll have your solution in terms of which player to go for. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've put it very well there. You can't be right or wrong in football. It's actually a crazy game to predict, because see, it's happened so many times, right? Where I mean, no, did anyone predict United losing 7-0? I mean, nobody can sit here and say that doing that or maybe going on a wild card in 26 was a bad decision, because everybody maybe saw that game, maybe a 2-0 to Liverpool at max, maybe a 3-0 to Liverpool if we're expecting a thrashing of United. I personally was seeing it as a 2-1 win for Liverpool. I thought that United will score, but yeah, nobody expected that to happen, and see what those outcomes kind of meant in the FPL space, where people who had Salah, they went absolutely crazy in terms of rank, who kind of got back as well, because last week a lot of people also had Salah, and it wasn't the great or wasn't the best of weeks for the Liverpool assets. But yeah, I think that's bound to happen, and that's why we love the game. That's why we sit here and I mean, look at the amount of content, look at the amount of people who are getting into FPL, who are conversing into FPL. So much is happening. There's so many conversations, and I think it's a great thing to see overall. Cool. Guys, do hit like if you are enjoying the stream. If you're new around here, do subscribe to the Insanely Football YouTube channel as well. I haven't checked, but we're very close to 2,000 subscribers. So please, 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 please help us reach 2,000 subscribers. Share it or share the channel with your friends if you can. Let's try to reach it in today's stream. It's still going to be a bit tricky, bit difficult, but let's see how far we can go. I mean, we've been stuck in and around this 2,000 for a long time, but I think yeah, it's 25 to go. That's still a long number or a big number, but yeah, do hit the subscribe button if you are enjoying what you're seeing. So we do this on a weekly basis. We do a lot of other content as well, short form, long form content. There's blogs as well. We also have a podcast available on different platforms. You'll find all the links, etc., in the description. Plus, you can check out the Instagram page. We are also there on Instagram. I think there's a lot of information, a lot of good stuff on Instagram, which will be helpful. Now, of course, we will have a 1 week break, or a week's break in terms of the international break, but there still will be some content coming out. So I think check it out. I think it's gonna be really really good. We'll quickly see Twitter again, in case if we have some information. I mean, in terms of the poll as well, 67% of people have voted for Kane as captaincy. I think he is still going to be very popular. Yes, he's also popular on Twitter, but I think there's a high chance that he could be popular, in general as well. Saka, I think it's going to be close between Saka and Tony. Maybe their ownership somewhere lies between 100, 110. We might still end up. Is probably going to be somewhere around 80, 85. And this includes the captaincy, of course. And then, yeah, you have the likes of Chilwell, Havertz. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with these players, because if Chelsea if they have a good game, I think we could see a lot of people jumping onto Chelsea assets, considering that they also have a double in 29. Havertz, Chilwell, or just Kane with 9 players playing. I think Havertz, Chilwell is a good option. In case if you're okay with the risk, I think Havertz, Chilwell is fine. Kane with 9 is also okay. I don't know who the other 9 players are. I think that's also important to kind of, you know, to make this decision. But I think Havertz, Chilwell as a combination is really good. I tried to play casual, but end up not playing it. I played FPL for the first time during COVID and got to top 15K this year. I've made so many mistakes and got unlucky. Now I'm at 1.2 million. That's fine. That's okay. That's where you learn, right? So I was last year. I was, I think, almost for 32 weeks. I had a great start to the season last year, and I think I was about 25K for the entire season. And I think the last 6 or 7 weeks, if I'm not wrong, it just I just completely tanked it. It totally went off, and I think I finished at about 75K. I mean, still a good rank when you look at the overall picture, but and considering that there's so many people playing this game, but yeah, and I think before that it was 16K or something. But it's fine. I mean, of course we can still talk sit here and talk about what rank is good, because considering now the number of accounts, the number of people who have started creating content, the number of active people in the community, I think more than the content creators, which are still few, I think the number of people or the amount of information that is available online, especially when we talk about FPL, it's just crazy. And I think even if you do not want to be a part of it, you'll kind of end up seeing certain information, maybe a blog, maybe a video, maybe a tweet talking about a certain player, and believe it or not, that will eventually start playing tricks with your brain. And I think that's where you kind of segregate yourself, and that's actually quite difficult, because you might be, a lot of times you might be just tunnel vision to think about one thing, that this is what the right direction is, and I maybe do not want to switch or sway away. I think that's where a lot of people, they kind of get into this rut where they fall into that trap where whatever everybody else is doing generally becomes the right play, which may or may not be the case for most weeks. So that's where what it is. I'm going for Watkins, Cruffett. I mean, yeah, Watkins is, as a pick, good option. As a captaincy, also a decent option. Bournemouth, it's a home fixture for Villa, and I think they're traditionally stronger at home. Though Watkins personally has better numbers away, and that's a very interesting stat. But yeah, I think against Bournemouth, who are still improving, I think he can still do well. I mean, it could be a high scoring 2-2 sort of a game, because I think Villa will absolutely go for it. I think Bournemouth also recognize the chance that they can probably get something from this game, considering that Villa doesn't really have a very strong defense. So I think yeah, Watkins as a pick, captaincy, I think a good option. There will now be multiple people actively tracking an Estupinian's. I mean, it's just been crazy, because that happened last year as well. Of course, if you were involved, etc., I think you would have got to know as well. But it's just crazy that people will start tracking the flight of Estupinian now that we know that he's going on international break and he's going to travel across the world. It seems like that. But yeah, I won't be surprised if there'll be memes, there'll be tweets about what time is he landing, how much break does he have. Then coming to the first set of pictures that people come out with in terms of whether he's in training or not. I mean, we have to take everything with a pinch. I mean, of course, this is all fun and jokes, but I think in general we have to take all this information with a pinch of salt as well, because there was this time where we were getting a lot of leaks, and there was this time where during these leaks a lot of misinformation was being spread around. So I think you need to kind of filter all that, and I think maybe you won't get it right at the first time, but I think with time you will get to know, or you will understand which accounts to look at, what kind of information to filter, how to make decisions in FPL. I mean, people have written books, and you won't really believe all that, right? Because you think that it's FPL. I'm watching football. I want to make the game a little bit more interesting rather than just following my team and in the game that my team is playing. I'll possibly also look at other Premier League teams and play. I mean, of course, all of us want to win FPL, and that's the aim. But how many or what kind of people do actually win FPL, right? Most of the people who do win FPL, they're not content creators. They're not very active people in the community. Some of them might even not have a Twitter account at the end of the day, right? So it's very interesting how the things have developed. Let's see what direction FPL generally takes, because the number of people or the number of managers playing the game is increasing every year, and I think that's a good thing to see. Especially, of course, when you're creating content, I think that's great. But at the same time, again, more and more people are getting into creating content. It's just a good feeling that you have more and more people to talk to, because as and when you get more people who are more involved, you also understand their perspective. You also understand a lot of new ideas, because as I said, if you're thinking about FPL in a specific way, you might just get stuck in terms of how you will proceed, right? So you won't get fresh ideas, you won't get fresh directions. And I think talking to people, and in case if if you are on Twitter, in case if you have friends who do play FPL, I think it's always a great thing to chat between them, among them, and get more ideas and get their insights in terms of how they are reading the game. I think it's a very fascinating thing to witness and see. I've been playing on and off since 2015. Every year I've abandoned FPL sometimes through the season. Last season was the first time I played poorly till the end, properly till the end. I'm so sorry for that. Finished 66k. That's a good rank. 66k is actually a decent rank. Currently 437k. I mean, yeah, if we are in that range where now talking about ranks, if we are in that range where we are talking about 500k, 1 million, 1.5 million, I think this is probably a time, or this is probably a rank where you would have to take a few risks, considering that a lot of wildcard teams were similar in 26, 27. I think a lot of free hit teams would also be similar because of the information again that is available. I don't think so. A lot of people would go very different on a free hit as well, even if it's a free, wildcard for Game Week 29. Let's see what happens then, but I have a feeling that it's also not going to be very different. I think it's there. There is a very easy template, or a very standard template that kind of comes up every week, or in most weeks. And I think it's difficult to differentiate from that, because most of the people are going for picks. Now they may or may not perform, of course. If they don't, and if you have a differential, then in that scenario I think you can gain a lot of ranks. But it's difficult to get back ranks, or strike those positions, because you will have to be very brave in terms of going with certain calls. Let's say, for example, somebody like a Haaland might not do well in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and people who have the heart to go without him in the next 3 or 4 games, and if that happens, I think would have a good tendency to at least get an opportunity to gain rank. Of course, it depends on which players, etc. you go, in place of Haaland. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I'm in a 7-man draft. Do I drop Dallo for Mings or holding? 7-man draft. Do I drop? I mean, I don't know what the other options or other players are, but if you have some additional money, I think I'll definitely try to go towards a Chilwell. If I can't, I'll possibly try to go towards a Botman. Mings, I'm not very interested in Mings because of the fact that Aston Villa, isn't the best defense. I have a feeling that they will concede this week as well, and they don't have the easiest of doubles in 29. And I think I'll look at the Newcastle defense if I have to. But yeah, 7-8 may not be enough in terms of keeping you safe in terms of rank. But I think, yeah, I think dropping Dallo for somebody else would be the play here. I don't think so Mings would be the right pick. I remember Forest scoring against Newcastle. I mean, yeah, that's also a possibility this week because it's a home game for Forest, and I think Forest traditionally are better at home. They're more attacking. They try to express themselves more at home as compared to away fixtures, and I think that could happen this week as well. Estupinian and Henry for Chilwell depends on your other team as well. I think the play here is, so I was thinking in this way where I was trying to take out Estupinian this week and keep Henry for the extra fixture, and then get back Estupinian next week. Now you may or may not want to do that. If you're okay playing with 9, or again depends on your other players. If you're okay playing with 9 or 10 players, which is absolutely fine, you don't have to field 11 players this week. So if you're okay with those many options in your team having a fixture this week, I think you do the Henry to Chilwell move and you keep Estupiñán. I still feel Estupiñán is a good hold because you can keep him on the bench this week, and then he definitely has a better double than Henry. He can definitely outscore Henry in spite of only playing twice in the next 2 weeks as compared to Henry, who has 3 fixtures. I still feel Estupiñán can outscore him. He has good goal threat. He's good for bonus points. Brighton don't really have a lot of options also in terms of playing a different left back. So I think there's a high chance that he starts both games as well. I personally feel that he's probably going to start both games in Game Week 29. I think if I'm taking out one option, I'll definitely take out Henry. Any cheaper options for Chilwell? I won't be able to buy Haaland back if I get Chilwell. Or should I just keep Henry and not do the transfer? I mean, in that scenario, because see, we're not buying Chilwell for Chelsea's defensive numbers, their clean sheet potential. I mean, yes, they could get some decent clean sheet points, but are we really sure that they're gonna keep clean sheets? Or maybe the way Newcastle was keeping clean sheets, right? I don't think so. They still have that potential, or at least we've not seen that so far. So going for an alternate or alternative Chelsea option may not be the play. So you might just be okay keeping Henry for this week, and then I mean, not having Chilwell will definitely be a bit worrying because his ownership is probably going to be very or decently high this week, and maybe you make a switch next week as well. Try to see if you can get that additional money from somewhere else. Maybe take another hit as well. I don't mind taking a hit for Chilwell this week as well, and see if you can raise that additional money from a different position. Bring in Koulibaly as a differential. I don't think so. If I really wanted to go towards a different option, I would probably look at James. But because of the fact that he's not been fit and he may or may not start, I think that's always a worry with James. It's been a worry since the past few this season and in the past few weeks as well. But yeah, I don't think so. Koulibaly would cut it because he doesn't really have a great knack of scoring a lot of goals. He's not as attacking as a Chilwell or as a James because they're playing in wing backs, wing back roles. So yeah, I'll probably look at elsewhere or on a different position. I mean, I know Tottenham don't really have a double in 29, but I think against Everton next week and Southampton this week, I think they could be two clean sheets. There's a possibility. It's Everton home and basically an away fixture for Tottenham, so that could be a bit tricky. But I think I won't bring Koulibaly. I think I'll look elsewhere. There's about 45 minutes to go. Please feel free to add any questions, anything at all that you wanna ask, wanna check. So I've seen a lot of people taking out Zinchenko, and he definitely could miss the game this week, and that's the worry. But yeah, if that happens, then let's just hope Henry doesn't really score a lot of points because then I think that's going to be a huge loss. But yeah, I've seen people who are tripling up on the Newcastle team as well with Trippier, Botman and a Burn, which is a very very interesting combination. I mean, it's a good differential combination now. Whether it's the right one or not sure. They do have a decent double in 29, but yeah, clean sheets could be a bit tricky. We still have about 64% people who are captaining Harry Kane this week. I still feel he's going to be a popular option. I don't. I was expecting it to be a little bit closer, but in whatever polls I've seen online across different platforms, across Scout, across in the All About FPL poll as well, I think Kane has definitely been the overwhelming favorite. Second has generally been Saka, and then third, followed by Tony in third position. I think that's probably how it's going to be overall as well. Should I risk with double Newcastle defense or just play defense? Trippier, Chilwell, Gabriel, Son, Willock. I mean, Willock, not sure. I'll rather play a Newcastle defender instead of Willock. I'll if I'm looking at Newcastle's attack, especially on a free hit, I'll definitely have or I'll try to get to an Isak if you can. Uh, but yeah, midfield of Son, Willock, Madison, and Odegaard. I think Son, Madison, and Odegaard they're good options. You don't really have to go for a fourth midfielder in case if I don't know who the fifth midfielder here is. I think it was Madison if I'm not wrong. But yeah, you don't really have to go for Willock. I think you can get in a Newcastle defender instead. Steele and Shaw, David De Gea, Estepinian on a wild card. Interesting. It's a tricky one because Steele again, he's not 100% nailed still. I know a lot of people would like to believe that he is the Brighton goalkeeper now, but I don't think so. That's the case. I think Sanchez can still or will still be fighting for that spot. And I think because of that risk, I know he's cheaper, but I think David De Gea still. I mean, there's no chance that David De Gea is gonna lose his spot. There no, unless he's injured or something like that happens. And I think David De Gea and Estupinian is the better combination to go for. Though Shaw, having said that, Shaw is still a very good pick. in isolation, I think he's going to be very attacking. He's a decent double in 29, and I think the fixtures after that are also okay. If I'm not wrong, United have Everton, Forest, Chelsea, Tottenham, Villa. So they're decent fixtures, and I think Shaw can overall do well. But I think so. If you're planning this move a little bit or for a little bit long term, I think I personally still won't take a risk with Steel and Shaw. I'll still go David De Gea Estupinian on a wild card. Have him till game week 29. You can see or decide if you want Estupinian for game week 30 as well, where he's facing Tottenham, because Tottenham again isn't the best defense, and I mean they can still right now a really good attack. I mean they're the top, I think the second best attack right now after Man City in the last few games, and I think that can still continue. So they can still do well against Tottenham, against Chelsea as well. But yeah, I think the point of exit for an Estupinian would be game week 30 or 31. Uh, yeah, that's yes, you are kind of booking one transfer, but then it's not that Steel has better fixtures. It's the same fixtures, right? And I think David De Gea and Estupinian has the better. I mean, has a slightly more potential. Excuse me. So yeah, I think a lot of questions that I got on Instagram this week were around whether there is a need to play 11 players. I think especially with the fact that maybe a Zinchenko is probably going to be out. Again, let's hope that he doesn't get out. Let's see if there is something around Zinchenko. Even if he's fit, I think, or slightly fit, I think he should be playing. But yeah, do you guys have seen any news about his injury? If there is, do let me know as well. Why exit Estupinian in 31? Brighton have three doubles between 29 and 38. Yes, they do have three doubles. I understand the appeal to hold Estupinian because of the fact, yeah, the fixture against Newcastle, which is yet to be scheduled, I think that will also play a decision or a role in terms of whether we hold Estupinian from 30 onwards. There is a potential move to somebody like a Shaw as well, because Shaw will also, yes, they will blank, but they will also have double. So in case if you're wildcard planning, I think that's also an option. But yeah, we need to get this information in terms of when does Estupinian have that double against Newcastle. I understand that they have the most number of doubles, but very frankly or very honestly, it's not that Brighton are the best defense. I mean, their defensive numbers have slightly improved over the past few weeks. Estupinian in general has been quite attacking, and I mean he's been playing in a really advanced role, advanced position. That may or may not continue. Brighton's defense may fall off a cliff. That could absolutely happen. But yeah, we just need to keep our eyes and ears open in terms of what could be the possibilities. I think just because of the fact that he has doubles may not be may not be enough to keep Estupinian. I understand that we generally like to go for players or like to go for options who have the maximum doubles, but that may not work out always. But yeah, I think after game week 28, between this time, we'll have that information in terms of which teams can possibly blank in 32. I think Brighton still gonna blank in 32. Brighton, Man City, that's gonna be a blank for sure. But yeah, I think that information on the Newcastle fixture and the scheduling of that would also kind of help in terms of making a decision in terms of whether to hold Estupinian or not. But let's see. I think it's good to be open and good to have some options in mind, and yeah, that's what it is. If not Willock, I have Martinelli. I have Kane, Watkins, and Havertz and forwards. I think Martinelli is an absolutely fine pick. I'll still prefer somebody like an Isak over Willock, because I think Isak, because of the fact that he's also on penalties and he is the main scorer, right? So if Newcastle's probably going to score goals, I think Isak should be involved, and he generally makes the attack a lot better. And I think yeah, I think that will still continue and that will still happen. So I think if you're going for the Newcastle attack, I think Isak is the one to go for. But yeah, Kane, Watkins, and Havertz is still fine. You don't really have to go for Isak, right? That's also a fine combination. It depends on how much trust you have in Havertz and what is your take on Havertz versus Isak. If you feel that Isak is probably going to be a lot better, then maybe take out Havertz and go for him, because I think Kane and Watkins are still sound options to go for. Chilwell in for Henry or Estepinian. What's the difference? So if you take out Henry this week, you won't be having an additional player having a fixture. Now, considering the fact that Zinchenko, let's say if you already have a Zinchenko as well, then maybe you take out, you know, it depends, right? Whether you really want to hold or what's your plan, whether you really want to get back Estupinian. I still believe the long term play is to take out Henry this week, have Chilwell and Estupinian as two good options for next week. Plus the fact that, we might get some more information around Estupinian in terms of when is that double with Newcastle. And I think with that, you don't really have to then make an additional transfer, an additional move. And it's not that Henry has a great double in 29. So, yes, you are kind of letting go of one fixture in gaming 28, but then you're gaining all of that stuff, or maybe some of that stuff, by having a better player with a better fixture in gaming 29. So, that's the difference, more or less. And that's where I am as well. I was earlier planning to get back Estupinian, but again, it also depends on whether you want Estupinian. That's number one, and then what is your state of the other team? Do you have Haaland? What's your plan with Haaland? What other fires do you have to put out in gaming 28 and 29, even 30, right? So you have to plan accordingly, and I think based on that you take a call. I still feel Henry is the right play in terms of taking out a player and then getting in Chilwell. How much money would I need left over to get Haaland back? I mean, Haaland is 12.1 right now. It depends, right? How much money do you have in the bank? Which player you are taking out? So Havertz and Haaland, they have a price difference of about 4.7. It also depends on when you would have bought the particular player. But I think around 4 to 5 million would be the range where you look at in terms of the amount of money that you would need to get back Haaland, in case if Watkins is that comparative or that comparison. Maybe you have a different option like Tony, who's slightly differently priced, right? So I think it'll be about 4.5 to 5 million. I think that would be the comfortable range that you'll need to get Haaland back. In case, again, if you are changing one of these players. Pinner to Chilwell, worth it for a hit? I think it's worth it. Better player, better fixture, good haul, good potential, and I think it's fine. Same team as me. So I have 7.3 million in the bank. I don't know how much you have. And the plan would be to maybe take out Tony and get back Haaland in game week 30. So yeah. So for that I'll be needing about 4.5 million in the bank. That's the money I need. I have 7.3, so I have an additional 3ish. My mathematics is not that strong. I'm doing this on the fly. These calculations might be slightly off, but yeah, somewhere around 3 odd million additional that I have, apart from the 4.5 that I would need to make the Tony to Haaland switch. That's okay, not a problem. Traveling. Should I take Estupinian for Chilwell and then swap back Gabriel for Estupinian 29? So you'll take out Estupinian, you'll get in Chilwell, and then you'll swap back Gap. I mean, you can do that. Depends on what is your team looking like in Gaming 29, and do you have other fires to put out. You can even not go for Estupinian in 29. Maybe go for somebody like a Shaw. But again, if you have that information around that Newcastle double, if there's a double in 30 or 31, then I think you can definitely do that back. For a hit, I mean, you would feel that the hit might not be justified, but I think the double is decent, and I think he could do really well. Sell Henry or Zinchenko to Chilwell. Now, because that fact that Zinchenko is or could be out, I think if you anyways do not want the Arsenal option in game week 29, maybe you were already thinking of taking out Zinchenko in game week 29. I think you can do Zinchenko to Chilwell and play Henry. At least by that way, you will have one fixture. Because I'm not sure whether I'll be, again, let's see what happens with Zinchenko and whether he's out long term. But in case if he's not, I might just hold him in game week 29, not take him out. But if you already were planning to do that, I think in that scenario, just take out Zinchenko and then get in Chilwell. At least the Henry pick will at least give you one additional fixture, and then maybe again, depending on what your plan is for next week and your other fires, etc., I think you can take out Henry as well. If I do the same subs as you, I will be on 5.4 million. I mean, depends. The team value may not be same. In fact, won't be same for most teams. Even if you have the same set of players, depending on when you bought them, which players you had before you gotten these players, what was the value lost, value gained, and based on all of those things is what you get that team value, which won't be similar for majority of the people. So that's fine. I was Zinchenko to Chilwell. I can't afford Henry to Chilwell. Yeah, Zinchenko to Chilwell is absolutely fine as well. He has a single game, provided that he's fit in Game Week 29. He will be having a single fixture. It's against Leeds, so if he's fit and if he's playing, I think there is a lot of good potential. But I think it's fine as well. In case if he misses this week, you kind of dodge a bullet because you've taken out a player who's anyways not playing by getting in a player who has a fixture this week and a double in 29. Best midfielder already have Saka, Martinelli. You can go for Madison. I think Madison's a good option. I was actually quite bullish on the idea of maybe getting in Almiron, but now Almiron is injured, so do not get him, please. But yeah, Madison is a good option. Brighton and Man United players are good picks, but then of course they do not have a fixture this week, but they do have a decent double next week. I think if you're going a bit risky, if you're going a bit punty, maybe look at one of the Chelsea midfielders. Sterling would have been a preferred option, but now that he's out for this week, maybe Mudrik could be. I mean, it's a very very risky differential. So in case if you only in the case where you are looking to go differential, maybe take a lot of risk and okay with that risk as well. I think you consider something like a Mudrik. But yeah, in general, I think I'll just stick with these options. You can even look at maybe Barnes, right? If Barnes is fit, I think I don't know if you already have Madison or not, but that double up with Madison Barnes, I know it sounds like a lot, especially when you talk about Leicester players, because Leicester is, I mean, they're a decent team. They do okay in attack, but you would not generally want to double up on Barnes and Madison. A lot of people have done that in previous seasons. That has worked as well. I have in fact done that as well. But yeah, I mean, these are just alternative directions where you can look at in terms of your picks. Guys, about half an hour to go. Please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new around here. Let's see if we've made any dents in that 2,000 subscriber mark. I think we're still far off in terms of it's just 24 off, so that's still a lot in terms of the subscribers. But yeah, do subscribe to the channel. Please help us get to 2,000 subs. Your love and your help will be really really appreciated. You don't have Madison yet. So I think Madison is then the standard option. I think he's a good pick. Leicester's probably going to do decently well this week and next week as well. And I think Madison is definitely the standout option right now. Yeah, I mean, on a wildcard, see, if you're planning to gain rank or if you're trying to gain rank, right? Let's say if you are in a position where maybe you are in the top 10K, 1K, 40, 50K, I mean, whatever rank you are there, you are comfortable sitting on that rank. You maybe do not want to go very aggressive, then maybe you don't look at these options like a James and a Chilwell, for example, right? That could be a very strong combination as well. I don't think so. A lot of people are thinking in that direction, but that's one way to differentiate. Something similar is what Praveen is also saying, right? Where we talk about a Leicester double up, where we get in a Madison and a Barnes, and then try to gain rank because Leicester does have decent fixtures. Even the fixtures after game week 29, which is the double, I think that they're also good. So when you look at the fixtures, it's Bournemouth. Man City is going to be a tricky game, so that's maybe 1 week where we'll have to see what we do. But then after that, it's Wolves, Leeds, Everton till 34. So I think it's a very strong run of games, and I think they can do really really well. In fact, till game week 35 is what I'm looking at in terms of having a good stretch of games. Of course, you'll have the blank in 32 to navigate. You'll also have the doubles in 34 and 37. So you may or may not take these players and shift them out. But I think on a wild card, if you want to gain rank, I think it's a very strong combination to go for. In fact, this week's free hit, I know a lot of people also didn't give a lot of importance to the free hit this week, but I think if we are trying to gain rank, free hit this week was also a differential strategy. I know a lot of people are already thinking about, and I think we have been thinking about a free hit in gaming 32, which is basically a blank. It's gonna be a blank game week, or a double in 34 or 37. But if people were a little bit okay going differently and trying to do things in a bit of a different way, a free hit in 28 was also pretty good because you have the likes of Son. who may or may not be a great option overall. But then the fixture is really good, and I think you can actually target him. You can go for a triple up on the Arsenal tag. Arsenal is still a bit tricky for me. I was maybe before the Europa League game, I was still a lot more confident in terms of a triple up in the Arsenal tag, but that's a differential route to kind of take advantage. And if Arsenal do really well, I think you will be great. You can also do the Chilwell to James combination. You can go for Havertz again. There is a lot of chatter about Havertz, but I've still seen a lot of people, not really going all the way with Havertz, and they're trying to see what's the best solution, what's the optimal solution, and they're trying to get to, or they generally go towards a Watkins, considering again might be some recency coming into play because Havertz is not scoring goals, Watkins is doing really good. So, but yeah, this was a very good window in terms of doing things a bit differently. I think a lot of people, or majority of the people who are left with a wild card, would try to play it in 29 if they're not bench boosting in 29. Again, depending on what teams and how many doublers and what's your overall composition structure of a team, both chips have their own merits and demerits. A lot of people would say that 29 you have to use a bench boost because that's possibly the best point, or week to play the bench boost. That may or may not be correct, but yeah, there are some alternate strategies which we can follow to try to gain rank, because it's not much time left, right? After this, there are only a set number of weeks left, and in case if you're trying to go chasing and if you're trying to go aggressive, you will have to find out these windows. Another window could be game week 32, where a lot of people would probably be free hitting, and you could do things differently again depending on the fixtures that come in 32, and then possible fixtures in 34 and 37 as well. Do you think Haaland can absolutely make a mockery of the pool defense? I mean, I really think that can happen, and that's the reason I was very skeptical and very scared of not of basically selling Haaland. But there is an opportunity to gain here. Yeah, if he scores 4 or 5 goals against Liverpool, first of all, I'll be very happy again. No disrespect to any Liverpool fans, but I'll just be very happy that Haaland has scored these many goals. But yeah, it's not going to be great from an FPL point of view, because all of us who've sold Haaland, it's going to be a very difficult week for somebody like a Watkins or a Havertz, because matching that is going to be very difficult. And again, whether there is potential for a Watkins or Havertz to score 5 in a double, I'm still not very sure. Haaland can do that in a single game and can absolutely smash us and tank our ranks. That can really happen. Considering how Liverpool has been playing recently, I don't expect Liverpool to lose 4 or 5 and Haaland scoring those many goals. But I mean, we weren't really expected to get beaten by 7, so it can absolutely happen. I'm scared, and that's something that, let's see. I in fact want someone Tony, something like a Tony, for example, to get a yellow card this week, because then that decision becomes very easy, right? Because you can then take out Tony. You don't have to live with the fact that you do not have Haaland in your team, and then that possibly is going to make life a lot easier for you. So I'm okay if Tony gets a yellow card this week, because in that scenario, he's definitely going to miss 29, and I can just do the Tony to Haaland switch. I think a lot of people in my position would also wish for the same, but let's see what happens. But yeah, very scared. Could really tank our ranks this week. Not this week, but yeah, next week when they play Liverpool. Have you already done your transfers? I have. I've gotten Chilwell in place of Henry. I have also got Watkins in place of Haaland. Those were my 2 moves. I had 2 free transfers and 4.3 million in the bank. Now I have no free transfers. Of course, the next week will be 1 free transfer, but might have to take a hit. It depends on Zinchenko's position, right? So if I'm planning to get in a Fernandes or a Madison, which is possibly going to be the decision in terms of midfield, and again, also depends on what Tony does, right? If Tony gets a yellow card, I think there'll be a lot of hits flying around, because people would want to attack the double, would want to at least get to 10 to 12 double game week players, if not more. And I think having hits or taking hits for that is absolutely fine, because you are having players who have 2 fixtures, who can give you the opportunity to do well over 2 games and just not give you that one single game. So I think let's see what happens. But yeah, these could be potential situations, or stuff that could happen next week. Captain Saka over Kane. I still feel Kane is the better option, has the slightly better matchup. Arsenal, it's the way I'm reading Arsenal is that it's probably going to be a tricky game for the Arsenal team. Yes, they would want to bounce back, but I think there will be some tiredness in players. There will be some tired legs out there, and I think because of the fact that Arsenal have so many options in terms of attack, who can score goals, who can get you assists, basically get you attacking returns. I think the appeal of Saka, at least to me, kind of goes down a bit. Kane is a player who, yes, both of them, Kane and Saka, they are on penalties, but the fact that whenever Tottenham are doing well or are scoring, I think Kane will get involved. That may or may not happen with Saka. It didn't happen last time, which was disappointing as a Saka owner, but that could absolutely happen. It's a similar case with Brighton mids as well, right? You have the likes of McAllister, Mitoma, and all these players, and anyone can haul in any of those weeks. So let's see. I still believe that I think Kane is the better play. You bring in Bruno or Shaw? If Bruno, why? Because I mean that's the issue, right? That's the only reason I'm thinking of maybe not getting towards the Bruno and maybe going for Madison. Casemiro not playing and Bruno playing in a deeper position is less appealing for sure. Let's see. I mean, there is a possibility where we can play a McFred combination, but I don't trust that. Maybe even Ten Hag doesn't trust that. It's not great for defense because we will be very leaky. There'll be a lot of spaces in midfield where the opposition can run behind us and completely control the midfield. So I don't think that's probably going to happen. Bruno possibly plays in a slightly deeper position. Yes, he will still make those attacking runs. It's not going to be as high as he generally plays with when he's playing on the right, for example, or maybe he's just playing behind the striker. It's not happened much, but he's switched around all places because that's. Let's see. I mean, I think I'll see this week as well, and if that trend kind of continues, I think it'll continue in the double as well. And maybe in that scenario, I'll possibly go for Madison, and I won't go for Bruno. In terms of Shaw, I think there is clean sheet potential in United. I think the defense is pretty decent. Shaw is also a great pick. I think he's been great in terms of his attacking threat. We know that he will bomb forward. We know that he will make those attacking runs. He can get assists as well. So I think, especially if Zinchenko is out long term, maybe he misses the match against Leeds in 29. I think Zinchenko to Shaw is a pretty straightforward move. That also kind of helps us in terms of setting up our teams for the next few weeks as well, right? Because United just don't have a decent double. They also have good fixtures after that. So that kind of solves my dilemma where I can play a back three or a back four of, let's say, a Trippier, Chilwell, a Shaw, and an Estupin. And I think that combination is a very strong defensive combination. I understand that it's a little bit more money spent in defense, but it's not that we are going for premium options like Salah or KDB right now that we need that much money. Hey Math, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. That's okay. Glad that you could join us this week. Your question is Madison, Almiron, or Chilwell. If it's a captaincy question, then it's probably. I mean, it's a risky pick, but I think it's Chilwell. If it's a transfer question, then I think I'll go Chilwell. Then Madison, then Almiron. Almiron is injured, so he may not play. So probably don't consider Almiron in your transfer set. But yeah, I'll possibly prioritize Chilwell over Madison. Kane or Watkins for Haaland. Watkins is giving you an additional fixture, but Kane's ownership is going to be very high. So if you're playing safer, I think both options are safe. But if you're playing safer and if you're trying to protect rank, I think get in Kane. But yeah, I think overall potential wise, Watkins looks like the better option. I think to remove Tony instead of Haaland, as I don't. I mean, yeah, of course, if you do not need that headache and if you can afford to do that, that's absolutely fine as well. Tony does have a fixture and it's Leicester, so it's not the ideal transfer to make in hope that a yellow card could come. I think if a yellow card comes in, it's okay to be reactive at that point and maybe take that headache. I mean, if you don't want to, you shouldn't. But I think just because of the fixture this week, I think letting off a player who has Leicester at home, and Leicester has been really, really bad, especially after the World Cup. Since Game Week 17, their defensive numbers are pathetic. So I think taking out Tony is still a bit iffy. But yeah, if that's how you want to play it, I think it's fine as well. Take out Henry for sure. Not this week. I still play Henry. At least he has a fixture, and I think I'll do that next week. That's an absolutely fair move to make. In your opinion, Captain Tony, Watkins, Osaka. If I'm captaining all these three, I think Tony is probably my number. I think Kane for me is the best option. And it's possibly Saka, Tony, and Watkins. I think that'll be the order. Kane or Watkins for Haaland. I've mentioned this, but yeah, it depends on your state of play, right? No, not captaincy at transfer. I think transfer Chilwell, as I mentioned. I think Chilwell is a good option. I don't know, he was injured. I mean, it just came out possibly about half an hour, 40 minutes back. So don't consider him. Don't consider Almiron in your thinking. If you already have him, maybe take him out. If you do not, or if you went with him on a free hit, then just take him out and go for a different option. I'm going to take a punt this week. Who do you think is the best midfielder for that? If it's a 1 week punt, maybe Son. If you can manage the money, I think Son is a great pick. Madison is a good option. Chilwell or Madison to bring in. I think if it's between both, I think Chilwell is still my preferred pick. But you can even bring both again, depending on which player you take out this week. But I think preference would be Chilwell. I think both options are really, really good. Good evening to you as well. Thank you so much for the lovely comment. Good luck to you as well. Have a great week. We have about 15 minutes, so please get in your questions. Let's crack this game week the right way, and that just hope and pray that we come out of it absolutely fine and ready to go for 29 as well. Because I think 29 is going to be a great week. There's a lot of content that's going to be coming out. There's a lot we can do because so many teams have doubles, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, I've still not seen people going for teams like a West Ham, for example. I mean, still not very heavy on Chelsea attackers, apart from maybe Havertz. Again, a lot of people are talking about Havertz, but they're still kind of chickening out and going for Watkins. But yeah, maybe Salah could also become a part of the conversation in 29. Let's see. I think it's pretty interesting. Why Chilwell? Because there's good potential for Chelsea to keep a clean sheet. Everton aren't really a great attack, especially away from home. Chilwell is playing in a wing back position because Chelsea has changed structure, and because of that, there's good potential for Chilwell to get attacking returns. He's going to be playing quite high up the pitch, and because of the fact that we have Cucurella covering for him on that side, I think Chilwell should have a good game. Chelsea can keep a clean sheet. Chilwell can get attacking returns, a goal and assist. We've seen that already, and I think Leicester, it's Leicester is good. Their attack is fine, but I'm still not very convinced with how Leicester has been playing. I mean, they're a very bogey team to be calling for a transfer. I know Madison's great, but I think I'll still try to get in Chilwell, considering that he has more potential for points this week. That's about it. Take out Haaland for who? If you want to go safer, then you go Watkins. The differential options are Havertz and Isak. Out of both Havertz and Isak, I think it's going to be very. I mean, I don't really consider Havertz as a strong or a standout differential. Yes, he's great, or he could be decent, but I think Isak could also do well this week. So that's the differential space. But in case if you're playing safer, then Watkins is the one to go for. And why not Madison? I mean, he's been playing okay. He was in fact quite unlucky not to get returns in the last week. But yeah, I think Chilwell is still my preferred pick. What are the advantages and disadvantages of selling Haaland? So advantage is that you are basically, let's say, if you compare Haaland to a Watkins, for example, or even a Tony, let's say, just for the sake of the argument and the comparison here, in case if you're doing that comparison, Haaland doesn't have a fixture this week and just one fixture next week. So he has two or one fixture in the next 2 weeks, whereas somebody like a Watkins has three fixtures in the next 2 weeks. So in terms of volume of games, definitely a Haaland is behind somebody like a Watkins, a Tony, or a different option which has a fixture this week and a double next week. The disadvantage of or another advantage would be that it's Liverpool. They were able to contain Man City last time around. Now, the fixture of Man City in 29 is against Liverpool. Liverpool could probably keep it tight. People know how to control Man City and how to control Haaland. Of course, if they are able to do that or not is a different conversation. But teams have shown how to shut Haaland for most of the game. And I think that's probably going to be a similar tactic that will be employed by Liverpool as well. So I think I mean, the overall, yes, we because of recency and because of the fact that we saw Haaland scoring 5 goals in the Champions League, we feel that he can score 5 goals. That could absolutely happen as well because he's a beast, he's a monster. But just because of the matchup, I think if this was somebody like a Leeds, for example, if this was somebody like a Southampton, for example, I think that conversation would have been very different. But I think it's because of the fact that it's Liverpool. I think there is potential to make gains, and not having Haaland is absolutely fine. Now, in case if Tony goes out next week, man, maybe he gets a yellow card. I think the swap is easy. You can just get back Haaland the next week as well. So you're not really losing out on anything if you're selling Haaland this week. The disadvantage here, another probably advantage, is that Haaland is also likely to blank in game week 32, right? Because of the FA Cup commitments that Man City will have. Now, that would also mean that someone like a Watkins could be better, but I don't think so. A lot of people would bet on a Watkins over a Haaland, especially for game week 30 when Man City has Southampton. So I think these are the advantages. Basically, you're getting more games. You're getting an opportunity to go against the crowd, try to gain more rank. In case if you're playing safe, then don't do that. I think it's probably better to keep Haaland this week and then on your bench and then just play him next week. That's the safer play. So yeah, I think this is where I am in terms of the Haaland conversation. Sorry. We're gonna hit the wildcard button tonight. 14 days left, trying to figure out a million combinations for the next game week, and that's the beauty of it, right? You're gonna hit the wildcard button. So much could happen that people having regular or teams with regular transfers might just be in a very awkward position after the international break. Let's assume that that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a very exciting time. One midfielder I can't take Son and Arsenal midfield. I have Madison. So if you want one midfielder, maybe a Chelsea mid, maybe somebody like a Mudrik, for example. Uh, Not very convinced with the option, but I think you can't have an Arsenal midfield. You can't take Son, and you already have Madison. So I think that's where I look at. What's the expected points for Chilwell and Madison? If you know, I don't remember by heart, but I can quickly check it. Well, I think I just lost the screen. Now I'm back. I'll come back to this in terms of the expected points. I hope I'm audible and visible. I just kind of tuned out of the stream for a second. Would you sell Buemo and Haaland for Tony and Isaac? Buemo and Haaland for Tony and Isaac. I think it's a good combination. Yeah, I mean, Tony's still the best. I mean, buying Tony is a bit weird because he can definitely get that yellow card in game week 28, and then you have to probably transfer him out again. So maybe from that sense, it's not great, but I think it's still a better option than Buemo, if you ask me. And I think Tony and Isak as a combination is absolutely fine. Saka or Kane is captaincy, as I see you went with Kane. Why is that? Better matchup. Has a great record against Southampton. Southampton are the worst side at home this season. Saka, on the other hand, and of course, and Kane, because of the fact that he's probably going to be at the end of majority of whatever Tottenham get in attack. I think Kane is going to be involved. Same, I'm finding it difficult to say the same for Saka because of the fact that there's Martinelli, Odegaard, defenders who can score from set pieces. Gabriel Jesus also returning, so I think the potential for Saka is kind of reduced for me. They also had a midweek game in Europa League, which they lost, which they played for 120 minutes, and that went on penalties as well. So that might be a bit tricky. There might be some tired legs. There might be some players who are not absolutely fit. Plus the fact that there are also a few injuries or a few knocks and niggles that have come up after the game. So I think that could also make the game a bit tricky. Who would you sell, Haaland or and Buemo for no hit? I mean, is it a question between Haaland and Buemo for no hit? So if it's a choice between the two, I hope I'm getting the question right. But if it's a choice between the two, I think, of course, with selling, depending on how much money also you have. But if you're selling Haaland and Buemo, I mean, you can definitely go Watkins. I don't know who's your other striker, but I think Haaland to a Watkins can be done and a Buemo to a Havertz can be done. If that math works out, I think that's absolutely fine. If you're asking to sell one of these options, I think again depending on the money that you have left in your bank, you can sell Buemo, upgrade him to a Havertz to a Watkins, or just sell Haaland and or give yourself a chance to see what happens with Buemo. I still feel Buemo is not the best option in attack, especially for next week. Henry to Chilwell, Martinelli to Madison this week. I think both options are looking good. If you had to do one, I'll possibly do Henry to Chilwell. I think Martinelli to Madison is still. Martinelli this week is okay. There's still a small doubt in terms of his minutes, considering that he played the majority minutes in the Arsenal attack in the Europa League game. I'm also a little bit worried that he may not play full 90. I mean, I still feel Arsenal, especially if there's an injury to Trossard and if Nketiah is also not fit, I don't think so. Martin is going to get rested. Now he may play 60 70 minutes. Maybe he comes in the last 30 40 as well, considering that Nelson can play on the left side as well. So I think he just has good numbers, and I think in the form that he's in, I think also because of the fact that he missed that penalty, I think Arteta would really want to build his confidence back, and I think he'll start. Why not James? James is he's not an injury risk, but he's still not fit. Now Champions League is also coming from game week 30 onwards, and Chelsea will be in the Champions League, and there could be some rotation there. James may not play in the Premier League, may play limited minutes. Chilwell is looking fitter, and I just feel even when James has played in that position, of course, it was not a wing back position, but he was playing in a full back position. Now that could be different when James starts playing in that wing back sort of a role. He may play a lot better, but I think Chilwell is definitely the fitter of the two, and I think if I'm going for one option, I'll look at Chilwell as a pick. Why do you go with Chilwell? I've already kind of answered this. Better, I mean, has good potential. Everton doesn't really score a lot of goals. Chelsea has decent potential for a clean sheet. Chilwell is playing in an attacking role in a different structure. He's playing as a wing back, which is great for him to get you goals and get you assists, and I think that also helps with his bonus points potential as well. I think, yeah, I'm sure that Chilwell's. I haven't read that Chilwell is not fit. Let me just quickly double check again. Of course, I won't be able to do anything for my team, but I can at least help you out. Yeah, I don't see anything in terms of. Yep, can't see anything in terms of Chilwell being injured or not fully fit. What do you think of Trippier captain? I think he's a good pick. Not as captaincy though, because it's a home game for Nottingham Forest, and I think Forest are a stronger team at home. It's an away fixture for Newcastle. I mean, Trippier could still do well from an attacking point of view, but because of the fact that it's Nottingham Forest at home. I mean, Forest is home basically. I think if I'm looking at a defender captaincy option, I'd rather captain Chilwell. Kepa, Watt, Chilwell, Trippier, Gabriel Botman, Estepinian, Madison Mitoma, Rashford, Saka, March, Kane, Watkins, Havertz. My team for Gaming 29. Bench boost. What can I do better? I don't care about Gaming 28 score. I think Kane, Watkins, and Havertz is a good combination. You can take out Kane, maybe go for a different option. Maybe go for Isak. You'll get another fixture, but doesn't make sense this week. Maybe do it next week. Saka, Rashford, March, Mitoma, Madison, Estupinian, Botman. I mean, it's a good team. You can take out Gabriel next week again. All these moves are probably for Gaming 29 and not 28. You can take out Gabriel. You can take out Kane. You can go for somebody like a Shaw who has a double in 29. I think this for this week I think it's fine. Some people say roll the transfer of Henry to Chilwell in case Tony. I mean, in case Tony gets a yellow, just take a -4. I think it's fine. You don't really have to see. It's a double game week. There will be a lot of players with double fixtures, and you can easily make up those points. You don't really have to. He gets a yellow. He gets a yellow. You take him out. You take that information on the chin, and you just make that move. We don't have to overthink it. To be very honest. Chilwell is nailed in the team. Yes, he is nailed in the team, and I think he is fine to go. Hey, Ansh, hello to you. This is the team. This is the final team that we have. No changes. Zinchenko is a bit of a worry now, but I don't think so. It's worth a hit. I think it's fine. We've made our bed with Henry to Chilwell, and I think we'll just stay with that. Even if Zinchenko kind of goes out, I think it'll be easier for us to do that switch next week. But I think that will come at a cost of a hit, because I think one of the moves that I'm definitely planning is to take out one of the Arsenal mids next week and then get to a Madison or a Fernandez. I think the United game is also going to dictate in terms of what I'm doing in terms of transfers. But yeah, I think let's see. Interesting times. One more minute, guys. Please feel free to ask anything else. If you have, just quickly go to the website as well or the app wherever you have logged in. Just make sure that you've saved your transfers. I'll also quickly check mine. I just realized that my captaincy was on Martinelli for some reason, and I think I've changed it. Let's hope I've done it. Oh man. Oh damn. Oh damn. Oh shit. Let's just hope I've changed that. I didn't see my team for the entire time. This is so weird. Let's just see. Let's just see. I mean, I did post my team at the right time. I mean, when I did post it, but I didn't see whether I changed my captaincy. It was on Martinelli. Vice captaincy was on Chilwell. I hope I've changed it to Kane. Because I did save the team. I hope it got saved. But let's see. It's deadline. Oh my god. Yeah. Captaincy is on Martinelli. It's not changed. I think it's not changed. I think it's let's see that I now this is stressful. This is unwanted stress for no reason. Anyway, guys, all the best for that's a chaotic. Yeah, that's chaotic. All the best for game week 28. I hope you have a great week. I hope my captaincy is saved. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good week for all of us. Let's just hope that Zinchenko doesn't go out. And yeah, done. Henry Chilwell at the last minute. Great if you've actually made it. I'm playing 5 defenders, 2 midfielders, 3 forwards. I think that's going to be a formation for a lot of people this week. Considering that a lot of people would have a double up on the on the Brighton mids and then Rashford as well. I think 2 mids is what most of the people are looking at. Not making Chile captain against a Sean Dyke team feels like a relief. Yeah, I'm just reading these messages now. Captain Watkins, for once, I've gone for differential. Please work for me. FPL gods. I mean, Watkins is a good pick. Has a good fixture. Let's see. Let's see what happens with them. Never know. Maybe Martini pulls off a masterclass. I don't even know whether if it got saved or not. But if it didn't, then Martin Lee is captain. Oh man. Yeah. Hmm. Why don't you make your team? I in fact haven't looked. There was so much stuff that I had to put out today. So yeah, didn't see my team at all. But yeah, let's see. It's fine. If Kane is saved, then I think we're good. It's fine. It's normal. But if it's not, then we'll ride our luck and let's see what happens with Martinelli. Even if he starts, let's hope that he starts first. And if he's my captain, and he can do well. Martinelli comes out and scores a hat trick where Kane gets a straight red. You're Jose Mourinho. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, I just don't know what to say. But yeah. Okay, guys, we'll stick around for some more time. In case if you want to chat about anything, please feel free to add anything in the comments in the chat. What are you planning in terms of Game Week 29? Do let me know. In case if you want to talk about F1, we can sit here and talk about F1 as well. Alonso did finish. I'm not sure whether FP2 has started, but he did finish P3, I think, in FP1. Yeah, FP2 is. I think FP2 is also done, if I'm not wrong. Yes, second practice done. Alonso and Perez. So Verstappen is P1, Alonso I think in P2, and Perez in P3. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think so. Alonso can still challenge for the win. I think Max is far ahead in a superior car and in the form that he's in. I don't think so. It's going to be close, but yeah, Uh, it's just good to see Alonso back, especially after seeing his old titles almost 20 years back. I mean, yeah, I mean, about 18 odd years back, and having seen him, been through his rough years, I think it just feels good. I have a triple captain chip and a bench boost chip. Sorry, to use. When you think it's best to use that? I think. I mean, triple captain is very interesting because we'll have to wait against. Sorry, we'll have to wait to get that information about the Newcastle game with Brighton, whether it's a double in 30-31. I think a double in 34 or 37 are your potential options for a triple captain. I mean, I still feel the best options or the best times have kind of gone, but you can still catch a haul. It's still possible. Bench boost chip. If you have a team sorted for Gaming 29 where you have 12 to 13 doublers, maybe even more, I think bench boost is the most powerful in Gaming 29. The other options are basically, maybe using it in 34. 37 is a bit too late for me, I think, because you'll anyways have a lot of money invested. So you'll possibly want to get rid of this chip and try to, then take out money from your bench because, I mean, you don't need that much money. You can invest that much money in your 11 if money is a problem. And I think, yeah, I think 29 is possibly the best option for a bench boost. Otherwise, I'll possibly look at 34 and then 37, maybe 32, maybe a different week for triple captaincy. Depends on, I think let's get that information first in terms of what are the potential blanks in 32, doubles in 34, 37, and then possibly, you can make a rough structure and a rough idea. McLaren forever. I mean, McLaren is struggling. The way they had the first. I mean, I know it's just one race, but I think they've started the season on the back foot, and I think Williams is very interesting and very surprising that they finished that high. It also depends on the reliability of these teams and what kind of upgrades, because I think McLaren is not. I mean, they are not thinking of competing even in the higher end of the midfield, especially in the first few races. That might change after a few races when they have their first couple of significant upgrades. Now that could change McLaren's position, but I just feel sad for Lando Norris because he's a great driver. He has great talent, and stuck in such a team where he may not be able to do well this season. It's just, yeah, it's just weird to see him struggling because he has a lot of potential. Charles takes another grid penalty. Yes, he does. Ferrari doing Ferrari things. I just don't understand what's the deal with them. I mean, I don't understand what are they doing. Again, we have to temper the expectations here because it's just one race. But yeah, it's not started well for Ferrari. Let's see. And they had such a good chance last season. They absolutely blew it, and let's just hope that doesn't happen this time around. Plan to bench boost on 29, I think, which is fair. Just my triple captain, I'm confused. I think you'll have to see matchups as well. I mean, not even double game weeks, right? If you feel that there's a single game week, for example, if Haaland is looking in, if Haaland scores 4 or 5 goals against Liverpool, that can happen. And then he has a fixture in game week 30. I think Haaland against Southampton is also a great game. I mean, you don't have to wait for, you don't necessarily have to wait for a double game week team and a double game week option. You can just go for Haaland as a captaincy because he's one player, he's one option who can easily score a hat trick in any game, right? And there's a high chance that he may not even start both the games in double game week because of the fact that Pep would want to keep him fresh. Champions League as well. Maybe they are in the fight till the end with Arsenal for the title as well. So I think, yeah, just be open in terms of the opportunities that that can come. Don't necessarily have to set yourself for a double game week option. Great, guys. Thank you so much again for joining. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have some really nice time watching good football. And of course, all the best for your score. Have a great score this week. Please pray for me that Kane is saved as my captaincy option. If he's not, just pray for me that Martinelli does something because I think I saw Martinelli as my captain. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Have a great time. Have a great weekend. Keep smiling. Good night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.